Hello my friends, Alyssa Neal here, dietitian and owner of Nourishment Nutrition, as well as author of the Moon Cycle Guide, Cultivate Your Feral Flame, which I made in collaboration with midwife and nurse practitioner Kimberly Perez. Today we are going to go through another phase of the menstrual cycle called ovulation. While ovulation itself is actually a moment in time where the most mature egg moves forth from the ovary through the fallopian tube. Apparently that's how it moves. Ovulatory phase is how I refer to it, just because it typically manifests as a phase. It manifests as a window of time in which we are fertile. Okay? It is the crescendo and climax of the menstrual cycle. And it's really exciting because usually we feel our best during ovulation or during ovulatory phase. Why do we feel our best during ovulatory phase? Well, let me tell you why. You bleed, right? You menstruate. After menstruation, you move into follicular phase. Follicular phase is when a follicle is maturing, or lots of follicles are maturing, possible eggs to release, okay? When the egg is released, that is ovulation. And once that happens, estrogen rises, progesterone rises, and at the moment of ovulation, we get a bump in testosterone as well. If you look in the Feral Flame Guide, or you look up hormone fluxes during menstruation or during the menstrual cycle, you'll be able to find graphs that show you really clearly how right around ovulation, all of these sex hormones rise. This is actually what makes us feel really good. In fact, this also spikes our temperature. Let me show you here. This is the book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility. It is how I learned to chart my cycle, and it's super important to chart your cycle if you are using any natural form of birth control, meaning whether you're using condoms, a diaphragm, or any method that's not relying on exogenous hormone, okay? It's important to chart your cycle because, yes, you could use an app to do this too, but by taking your basal body temperature, you know exactly when you ovulate. And if you know exactly when you ovulate, then you know exactly when you're fertile. And we're actually not fertile very often. We're only fertile when we ovulate and a couple days before and a couple days after. So check this out. You can see these are temperatures, body temperatures. So you can see how the temperature is lower, lower, lower. This is through bleeding and follicular phase, and then boom, spike in body temperature, and the body temperature stays high until the person bleeds again, okay? And then the cycle starts over. Bleeding, follicular, ovulation, boom. Body temperature raises because now we are in incubation phase. We go through luteal phase, and then we bleed again. This happens every single cycle that you have. Your body temperature rises when you ovulate. And it rises when you ovulate because if that egg is fertilized, you become a human incubator, right? Yes. So, why is ovulation so special? Why am I referring to it as the climax of the cycle? Well, it's quite simple. When we ovulate, we are fertile. So, from an evolutionary standpoint, our bodies, our sex hormones, how we look, how we feel, our acuity to our environment, everything is turned up, right? In fact, some studies, some research shows us that we actually have a better sense of smell around the time of ovulation. Why would that be advantageous? I bet you already know. Pheromones, right? To pick up who we're attracted to, who's a good mate, what's a good potential connection here, right? Moreover, we actually have better arterial dilation, meaning that arteries are like this, blood moves through them. No, I'm not doing some innuendo. Blood moves through our arteries, right? Around the time of ovulation, they're actually more dilated, meaning more blood can move through. Why is that important? Better circulation. Not just for pleasure, which of course better circulation increases pleasure too, because more blood flow to the area engorges it, but our cheeks are more flushed, we are a little bit more juicy and plump feeling, and these are from these characteristics. Sometimes our lips might look more red from that better circulation. This is from that spike in estrogen. Estrogen is, it is like the quintessential maiden hormone. It's the female, like, I'm radiant, I'm juicy, I'm glowing. Estrogen, okay? Now, too much of a good thing can be not so great of a thing. So this doesn't mean that, we want loads and loads and loads of estrogen, but this dance, this rhythm that happens when estrogen rises and we are sitting there in all of our glory, fertile, that's what's up. In fact, if you track your cycle and you start to tune into some of these rhythms, you'll notice that around ovulation, you're more likely to wear tight clothes, you might be more likely to put on makeup, you might be more likely to adorn yourself in jewelry, you might actually notice that you have more of a capacity, let's put it, more of a capacity to socialize. More of a capacity to connect. You might feel a little friskier. You might be like, ooh, I'm going to take more selfies. This is ovulation. And again, it's not like some magical thing that I'm talking about here. Of course it is magic. Of course we can be in awe of it. But of course we would feel amazing when we're the most fertile. Okay? This is also when you're probably going to notice that your sex drive is the highest, when you are more likely to pursue sex, when you're more likely to feel creative energy, when you're more likely to connect with your friends and want to, kind of have that sassy little bit of fire in you, okay? This is the dance of the cycle. We get really high on ovulation, and then we do drop off into often what feels like someone just ripped off our crown and took our cape, and we go into this more like humble reflection mode. So enjoy ovulation while you're at the peak, because it truly is a gift. Now I just want to note, while yes, you might be really likely to want to express yourself sexually, this can be a really good time to self-pleasure, to use masturbation or self-pleasure as a form of meditation, and it also can be a good time, if you're not feeling sexually inclined, to transform that sexual energy into creative energy, into vitality. And you can do that by breathing. There's this breath called the inner smile, which I learned about when I read the book Multi-Orgasmic Couple by Mantak Chia, where what you do is you essentially move energy from your yoni, from your genitals, from your pussy, however you call it, to up your spine, and then you allow it to cascade down the front of your body, back to your womb, back to your yoni, okay? It's really beautiful, and it's really, really, really clarifying, and it's a great way where if you are feeling like you want to be sexually expressive but you don't have an outlet, or you're not feeling sexually expressive but you'd like to move that energy, it's a really beautiful way to do that. And especially at that climax of the cycle where we're like, ooh, we're tapped in, we're kind of turned on by everything around us, and our senses are really acute, okay? So with all this being said, I just want to put a big highlighter moment here, okay? If you are not using any form of birth control aside from tracking your cycle, it's really important that you take your basal body temperature and you don't just guess, because ovulation can be very different depending on the circumstances. What am I talking about? Well, because ovulation is the portal or the gateway to becoming fertile and therefore creating life, it is going to depend on how stressed you are, how healthy you are, what's happening in your external environment, and how your internal environment is perceiving it. So as we've had this Rona slowdown, a lot of women have noticed that they have delayed ovulation. They're experiencing stress, and therefore their body is like, hey, we're gonna hold that egg, we're gonna hold that release, and we're gonna wait, because now it doesn't seem like a great time to become pregnant, right? So the body delays the release of the egg. If you're taking your basal body temperature, you'll know this. Maybe every cycle you ovulate, boom, day 12, that's the day you ovulate, and that's your norm. But if you're stressed, you might ovulate on day 20 of your cycle, and if you're taking your temperature, you'll know this really quickly and really easily. But if you're not, you might get a little scared, or you might end up, conceiving without wanting to because you assumed you ovulated on day 12, you were stressed, you ovulated on day 20, and maybe you had sex on day 19 that was unprotected, right? So this is a dance, this is a science, it's also a wisdom that lives in our bodies, and it's really quite simple. There are time-tested ways to do this. Always do the ones that feel good for you, but make sure, even if you are on birth control, it can be fun just to take your basal body temperature and notice the fluctuation. Notice how, we all hear about and talk about sex hormones, and they're really fun to talk about and what they do in our body, but also notice how they impact really simple base things like our body temperature, okay? Now, during ovulation, you also might notice that, your appetite isn't as aggressive as when you're in luteal phase, right? Often people will notice, mid follicular phase to ovulation, my appetite's really laid back. And this is again because that burst of progesterone and estrogen, those actually work for us in regard to how our body utilizes energy. So for example, progesterone buffers our cortisol production, right? Cortisol is stress hormone. It has a lot of benefits. It wakes us up in the morning, but if we make too much, we're going to feel the effects, right? And estrogen also plays with and buffers insulin. So when we have a little bit more estrogen in the system, we don't have, our blood sugar stays a little bit more stable. It's a little bit more sensitive. It says, okay, cool. They just ate some carbohydrates, some sugar. I know what to do with that. I can use that for energy. I can use that for fuel. I can store that as glycogen, right? So at this point, the body is really, really finely tuned. And so the best thing you can do in ovulation is just listen to your body. Just listen to your body and enjoy the sensations. Let's see. Other things you might notice at ovulation, sleep will be really restful. You might notice that along with your connection with other people, you might be a little bit more flexible emotionally, mentally, and expressively. So you might notice that you're more confident during ovulation. And again, this all makes sense, right? Evolutionarily, we say, well, of course we would be more confident around the time we're fertile because that's when we're the most likely to connect with a potential mate and make a child. So if you're ever wondering about the menstrual cycle and why certain things happen, just go back to that and say, in terms of evolution, not that that's the only thing that matters, but it helps to clarify here, why would this be happening? Why would I want to wear more tight clothes when I'm fertile? Why would I be more aware of scents and smells and pheromones when I'm fertile, right? A lot of women on birth control, exogenous forms of hormones as birth control, when they come off, they notice that the scent of their partner and how it arouses them or doesn't arouse them changes. If you're on birth control and you're with someone, then you go off the birth control, there have been studies showing that often the scent can sometimes disturb you of your lover if you were on birth control and now you're not. Sometimes this does not happen if you met them when you were off birth control, but having those exogenous hormones in our body does change our interaction with our external environment, right? So this is fun. Another thing to notice around ovulation is that you will be very lubricated. You will be naturally wet. You will notice cervical mucus or cervical fluid or nectar, whatever you want to refer to it as. If you wear underwear, you'll notice it there. Or you might notice it when you go to the bathroom. So these are some things to just notice. You'll also just feel turned on. You're going to feel this magnetism, this pull, this openness in your body. And so it's a really great time to drop into the body and explore how you feel. Let's see, anything else here? Tools, I would say just drop in. I'm just looking through the menstrual cycle guide just for some points here. Oh, something I love using is the jade egg. And I love using it during the phase of ovulation or around ovulation. I got mine from the Boulder Honey Pot. I will link that below. But you can do some really incredible practices with that. Moreover, self-massage, baths, adorning yourself, getting dressed up. Even if you don't have anywhere to go, just get dressed up. Can you tell that I am in ovulatory phase right now? I can, or I'm about to be. There's this ease with the body, and that shifts a lot during luteal. So make sure you enjoy it so that when you get into luteal, you're not a deer in the headlights going, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Instead you're going, yes, it's the time to turn in and reflect, and this is all perfect. So that is the phase of ovulation. Y'all, I just scratched the surface. The menstrual cycle has so many profound details. So, if you would like to learn more, please leave your name, your email, a way to contact you below. You also can get the Feral Flame Guide. Eventually, as we move through time here, and it feels right, it's not quite right yet, I have a little bit more work to do, but I will be putting together a course around the menstrual cycle and how to weave nourishment into it. And I'm insanely excited to share this course. But in the meantime, please use these videos, please study them, please self-reflect, please take advantage of this natural rhythm, this cycle, this dance that menstruating humans have as a means of learning, as a conduit for information, as a way to connect, and as a way to be more alive, more present, and more dynamic with ourselves, with those we love, and with our environment. Again, thank you so much for taking the time. We're almost at 16 minutes for watching this. Again, like I said, I just scratched the surface of this. I mean, I could have gone into all of the herbal plant oil mixes that nurse practitioner and midwife Kimberly Perez put together. There's so many things to explore in the phase of ovulation, and it's such a fun phase. It's so juicy. Leave a heart below if you are ovulating. I know a lot of you are. Oftentimes you'll notice synchronized patterns around the people that you hang out with, other women, other menstruating humans, and it usually goes like this. Half of them are about to get their period, and half of them are ovulating. And this is a fun thing. You can usually guess by people's behavior, if you know what I mean. And it's really fun. It's really fun. So cheers to learning. Cheers to all of this. Thank you truly from the bottom of my heart, from the top of my heart. Thank you for joining. Thank you for learning. Thank you for exploring. Be well, and I will talk to you soon.